Fundamentals of Chinese 2, Unit 1, Making Appointments, Calling One's Teacher. Understand it. Have a pen or pencil ready and turn to your textbooks to page 150. The first sentence sets the context, so it appears in parentheses. It's no one's speaking. It says, 李友给常老师打电话。李友给常老师打电话. So in here, you've seen 给 before. It means to give. But it's also used like a preposition. So here we have 李友 is doing something to 常老师. And what is she doing? Well, that comes in this 打电话 part here, which we'll look at in the next slide. But this activity, this is a verb, 打电话. So this action is being performed by 李友 towards 常老师, and so we have this 给 in the middle as a preposition. So it could be like to. 李友 to 常老师 does something. So let's take a look and see what she's doing. Real quick before we do that, this 给, to get a more thorough and deeper explanation of how 给 can be used, look at the grammar point number 1 on page 154. And there are several examples there that you should study closely. Okay, 打电话, 打电话. 打 is one of those verbs. You've seen it before in 打球, to play sports or to play ball. It originally means to hit, but it's one of those multi-purpose verbs. And so here it means to make. In this case, to make a phone call. Now, be careful. 打 doesn't always mean make, and you just can't use 打 wherever you would use the word make in English. Like in English we say make a cake, but in Chinese you can't say 打蛋糕, 打 a cake. If you said that, it would really mean to hit the cake. It wouldn't mean to make the cake. There's another verb in Chinese that's used for make a cake. So with this 打, you best not try and formulate your own new sentences with 打. What you need to do is wherever you see 打 used, that's where you should use it. Try to refrain from being too creative with it because you're bound to make some mistakes. So, 李友给常老师打电话. So, what does this sentence mean? And if you want to challenge yourself, hit pause and think about how you would translate this into English. And here we go. 李友 gives teacher Chang a phone call. 李友给常老师打电话. So the dialogue starts off with 常老师 answering the phone. And 常老师 says one syllable or one word. She says, 喂. 喂. 喂 is the word that Chinese use to answer a telephone. Now, it doesn't mean hello. You can't just use 喂 to mean hello. What you need to understand linguistically is that every language or culture has a different way of answering the phone. We in English, we say hello. That's how we answer the phone, but that's not the case in every language. In some languages, they have a very special, unique word that's used when you're answering the phone. And even though it officially translates into English as hello, because that's what we say when we answer a phone, the word itself doesn't mean hello. So you can't say 喂. You can't walk down the hall in the campus and see someone that you know and say 喂, thinking that you're saying hello. It does not mean hello in that sense. But when you answer the phone, in Chinese, you answer by saying wei. So Leo responds as well with wei, 请问常老师在吗？喂，请问常老师在吗？ So I believe you've seen everything here. 请问, you remember from lesson 1 in the textbook, the very first dialogue. And then 在, you know, means where. 在哪儿, you've learned as where. But 在 also means to be there or to be here. So think about what this might mean. Chang Lao Shi answers the phone and says, Wei. And then Leo says, Wei, 请问 Chang Lao Shi 在吗? Okay, so if Leo is calling, looking for someone, and then someone answers the phone, and she says 请问, so she's being very, very polite, right? So what do you think she's asking here? In this particular meaning of 在 is a big clue, to be there, to be here. So let's go to the next slide and take a look. Hello, excuse me, is Teacher Chang there? Okay, so pay very special attention to the way 在 is used. 常老师在吗? 在吗? Okay, so here we have 常老师, and ma makes it a question. So 在 is communicating the meaning of, in English, is there, right? Teacher Chang there? Okay. 喂，请问常老师在吗? So Chang Lao Shi responds using a very interesting multi-purpose Chinese verb, 就. So for now, let's just say that 就, 就, 就. Let's just say that 就 means exactly or precisely, and that's how they translate it in your book. So Chang Lao Shi responds and says, 我就是. 您是哪位? 您是哪位? So 就 Chang Lao Shi just could have said 我是, I am, but Leo called asking for Chang Lao Shi, and what do you know? It's Chang Lao Shi that answered it. So 就 expresses that, well, I'm Chang Lao Shi, it's me. So she's emphasizing, hey, it's me, you have the right person. So that 就 expresses that. Nin, very simply, is just a formal version of you. That's all. It's like ni, and you'll notice if you just take away this radical at the bottom here, you actually have the character for ni, and you add this radical on the bottom here, and you come up with nin, and it's just the formal way of saying you. It's showing respect. And it's normally used for between people who have just met. And so when two people just meet, they may start off using nin, but then as they become more familiar with each other, then they'll start using ni. And very likely you would be saying nin, like you meet someone at a coffee shop or something, or somewhere, and you keep using nin, and at some point in the conversation, the other person would say, oh, stop using nin, just say ni. They'll tell you to stop being so polite, at which point you just say ni. So we have a question here. So, 你, 您是, you are, and then we have a question form in here. So what's, and think about it. Chang Lao Shi is receiving a phone call, and the other person is looking for her, and it just happens to be her, but Chang Lao Shi doesn't really know who the person is that's calling. So what do you think she's going to ask? So 哪 here means which. na. It's a question. It's not na. You remember if you take off this radical here, you have na, which means that. 这个 and 那个, this and that. But you add this here and it turns it into 哪, which means which. So 您是哪? So we're getting closer to our question here. 您是哪位?您是哪位? So 位 is a measure word. Okay? Like 个, 一个,一个 something. Or 一杯水. Right? We have this is another measure word. 位. And 位 is a polite measure word for people. Kind of like, who is that person? In that kind of sentence, you would say 位 for person. Okay? In Chinese, person is 人, and they might say who is that person, but they like to use 位 instead of 人. It's a polite way of saying it. Just like in this sentence here. 您是哪位? So what do you think 您是哪位 means? And you can pause and think about that if you wish. Okay, so 我就是您是哪位? So this is she, is what 我就是 means. And then, quite simply, who is this? 您是哪位? Or perhaps translated more directly, you are which person? You are who, or who are you? I translated it here as who is this? You are which person? 您是哪位? So you should be learning pretty quickly here that it's really hard to formulate your own sentences in Chinese. You just can't learn a bunch of Chinese words and then start constructing your own sentences just by taking a collection of single words that you've learned the meanings to. You really need to learn how Chinese say things because they say things differently than we do. Okay, Leo says, 老师,您好,我是李友. 老师,您好,我是李友. Okay, so everything here you should be familiar with. So what is Leo saying here? 老师您好,我是李友. Pause if you want to think about that. 老师您好,我是李友. Teacher, hello, this is Leo. Hi, everything here you should be familiar with as well. 常老师 says 李友,有事吗? So remember this 事 means like matter. You learned a few lessons back in the book. It means doing something, to be doing something. 有事, remember, means I have something to do. But here, 有事吗? So think of the context. So 常老师 finally knows who it is. Oh, it's Leo. Leo, 有事吗? And it's a question. So what do you think she's asking? Pause if you want to think about it. Okay, we've translated it here as Leo, what's going on? Okay, more literally is do you have, it's a question, right? Yo means have, but it's a question, so in English, when you ask a question about whether or not you have something, we use do, so do you have? Yo, do you have some issue? Would be a, kind of a direct translation. But really, in this context, it's, hey, what's going on? What's up? Why did you call me? 有事吗? What's going on? And this is another good example of how you can't just translate. You've learned what in Chinese is 什么. You've learned go is 去. And on really is 上. I don't think you've learned the word 上 yet to mean on, but you can't say 什么去上. That means nothing in Chinese. It's like a bunch of gibberish. It means absolutely nothing. So be careful not to just take a bunch of words you've learned and translate them, put them together to make Chinese sentences. Really, the best way to learn Chinese is to see how they say it. And that's true for any language. Okay, so Leo says, 老师，今天下午您有时间吗？我想问您几个问题。老师，今天下午您有时间吗？我想问您几个问题。Okay. So I think the first word here that you're not familiar with is 下午. 下午. Okay. 下午 means afternoon. And 午 is a character that means noontime. And so 下means after in this context. 下午. And so these two characters together form the word 下午, just means afternoon. 老师，今天下午您有时间吗？我想问您几个问题。Okay, so let's see what's next in this sentence. 有时间，有时间，有时间. So 有, you know, means have, and 时间 here means time. Now remember, in Chinese, when you ask someone what time it is, you say 几点, 几点. Okay, you can't say 什么时间 to mean what time. Okay, so there's another example of you can't just make sentences with a bunch of words that you've learned. So 时间 in this context means time, but it's not the same time as when you ask someone, hey, what time is it? That's 几点. Okay, here you have 有时间, have time. And in this context, it's really free time, to have time. Do you have some time? 老师，今天下午您有时间吗? So this is pretty easy here to decipher. Let's keep going. All right, next in here we see 几 and 个, 几个, 几个. So 几个 here means a few or some. 几个. Okay, so you remember 问题. I think you've learned 问题because when we do our quizzes online, especially the speaking tests, you have learned the first question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. Remember? 第一个问题, 第二个问题, 第三个问题. Okay, so here we have 问题 again. So a few 问题. Alright, so 问题, you remember, is question or problem. So Leo is calling her teacher because 老师，今天下午您有时间吗？我想问您几个问题. Alright, so pause and think about how you might translate that sentence real quick. And if you came up with teacher, do you have some time this afternoon? I want to ask you some questions. Okay. So if you came up with something close to that, then you've done pretty good. Teacher, do you have time this afternoon? I want to ask you some questions. 老师，今天下午您有时间吗？我想问您几个问题. Okay, Chang 老师 responds by saying 对不起，今天下午我要开会。开会。对不起，今天下午我要开会. Okay. So this 要 here. 要 comes before a scheduled future action. Now, a tendency for foreigners or non-native Chinese speakers learning Chinese is whenever we first learn this word yao, and I did the same thing when I first learned this, I thought, oh, here is the word for will. Will. I will do something. I will eat. I will go to Boston tomorrow, right? It's like, oh, wow, I finally found the word for will, for future tense. Here's how we express future tense in Chinese, right? And generally, that's kind of true, but not really. And again, you're best just paying very close attention at how the Chinese use it, because there are several examples that we've seen in the past in this class, in this textbook, and that we'll see again later on, where something's happening in the future, but will is not there. They don't use it because grammatically they don't need to use it. So why is will being used here? Well, you want to go see the grammar point number 2 on page 154, but essentially yao emphasizes that it's a scheduled future action. You've planned to do something. So it's not just something happening in the future. It's that you've planned to do something. So, for example, the sun will rise tomorrow. Okay? Or the sun will set tomorrow. The sun will set tomorrow. So in Chinese, you don't need to say the sun yao set tomorrow. Like in English, you need to say the sun will set tomorrow. But in Chinese, all you say is tomorrow, the sun sets. Tomorrow, the sun sets. No will, okay? Because it's not a planned activity. No one is planning to make the sun set tomorrow. So there's no need to use yao. So it'll take you a while to get a proper feeling for this, but just know that here it means will do something. So what is 常老师 going to do here? What's this 开会? Alright, 开会 is to have a meeting. Okay? So 开会 doesn't just mean meeting. It's the verb, it's almost like a verb. 开会. So the English meaning, this whole idea of to have, in English we have a verb and then a noun. And this verb and noun together means to, you're gonna have a meeting. All of that is encapsulated in this word 开会. 开会 means to have a meeting. So 对不起，今天下午我要开会. So pause and think about what this means. 对不起，今天下午我要开会. Okay, I'm sorry. I have a meeting this afternoon. Okay, 对不起, sorry. 今天下午, this afternoon, 我要开会. I will be in a meeting, or I have a meeting. Okay, now take a quick moment to focus on the time here. Okay, in English we say I have a meeting this afternoon, and this afternoon is at the end. But remember, earlier on in this textbook we learned that time is always in front. So 对不起, and then this construction begins with the time. 今天下午. Okay, so Leo then says 明天呢? Now you should know this. 明天 is tomorrow, and 呢, you learned 呢when back when we said what's your name? 你叫什么名字? 我叫 Jonathan. 你呢? Okay, and 你呢 means what about you? So what do you think 呢 is doing in this context here? 明天呢? Why don't you pause and try and think about what that means? What about tomorrow? Very simply, what about tomorrow? 明天呢? What about tomorrow? you remember that 你呢 was what about you? Okay, my name is Jonathan, what about you? Okay, so 你呢 what about you? In this case, we have 明天 before it, so it's what about tomorrow? Okay, so now you should be building a deeper understanding or getting a deeper understanding of how 呢 can be used, because now you're seeing it used in a new context. Okay, so it looks like 常老师 is a little difficult to get a hold of. 明天上午我有2节课，下午3点要给2年级考试。明天上午我有2节课，下午3点要给2年级考试。Okay, so let's take this one piece at a time. 上午. So you just learned 下午. 下午 was afternoon. So 上, what do you think 上午 means? Okay, well here it is right here. Morning. 上午. So 午 means noon, and this 上 here in this case means before. Now be careful with 上 meaning before, because now you can't just think, oh, 上 means before. So now wherever we use before in English, all I need to do is use 上, and I will be okay. Not so. You'll make a lot of mistakes. So just know that in this context, that 上 has this meaning of before. And so together with 午, it forms the word 上午. 明天上午. 明天上午. Okay, 明天上午 what? Let's find out. 明天上午我有2节. 节. Okay, 节 is a measure word, just like 位 for person or 个. Okay, 节 is a measure word. This is a specific measure word that's used for a class period. So it doesn't mean class, but it's a measure word for a class period. Okay, so if 节 is the measure word for class period, what do you think 课 is? And you should know 课 because it appears at the beginning of every lesson in your textbook. 课 means class period. Okay, 明天上午我有2节课. So think about what that means for a moment. Pause, and you'll be asked to translate it a couple slides ahead. But think about what that means for a minute. 明天上午我有2节课. What could that mean? Okay, so 明天上午常老师有2节课, and then in the afternoon 下午3点要给2年级考试. So let's see what that is all about. Okay, so 要 you just learned is she's planning to do something. She will do something tomorrow. 给 means to give. So she's going to give somebody something, and that something is here in 考试. But who's the somebody? The somebody is 2年级. 2年级. So 年级 is class level. 年级 is class level in a university. Okay, so 1年级 is freshman. 2年级 sophomore. 3年级 is junior. And 4年级 is senior. So what are you? Are you a 1年级的学生, 2年级的学生, 3年级的学生, or 还是4年级的学生? 你是哪年级的学生? Which class level are you? So 常老师要给2年级考试. So she's going to give something to the sophomores here. 她要给2年级 考试. What is 考试? Okay, 考试 is a test or exam. Test or exam. 下午3点要给2年级考试. Alright, so pause and think about what this whole sentence means here. 明天上午我有2节课，下午3点要给2年级考试. So, how close did you get to this? I have 2 classes tomorrow morning, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I will give the sophomores a test. 明天上午我有2节课，下午3点要给2年级考试. Okay, I have 2 classes tomorrow. 明天上午我有2节课 tomorrow morning. So what about you? 你明天上午有几节课？你有几节课？ How many classes do you have tomorrow morning? 你明天下午有几节课？你有几节课？你有几节课？ And 几 is like 几点？几, right? So how many classes do you have in the morning? And then do you have a test tomorrow? 你明天考试吗？明天考试吗？ So poor Leo, she's trying to get some time with 常老师. So she comes back and she asks, 您什么时候有空？您什么时候有空？ And they add this R on the end here, which is quite complicated. You might also want to refer to the CD and the video and the workbook audio recording to get accurate pronunciation of 空. So, 您什么时候有空? So, 空 is free time. 空 is free time. Okay? 什么时候, you'll recall, you've learned this before, means when. 您什么时候有空? 您什么时候有空? So what does this mean? Pause and write it down. So Leo is just giving up and said, okay, when do you have some free time? 您什么时候有空? So 常老师 says, 明天4点以后才有空. 明天4点以后才有空. Now, we'll take a look at this 以后 real quick here. But I want to take a look at 才 here. Okay? 才, you'll remember, Wang Peng and Li You went to Gao Wenzhong's house. Remember, Wang Peng 和 Li You 去高文中家玩。在高文中家，他们认识了高文中的姐姐。那天，他们就是王鹏和李友12点才回家。12点才回家。Do you remember that? 他们12点才回家。They didn't go home until 12 o'clock. And remember, 才 is a word that expresses the meaning of kind of like surprise, like it was 12 o'clock before they went home, right? So think about what that's doing here. 明天4点以后才有空. Okay, but let's take a look at this 以后 first. So 以后 just means after. After. Now, pay attention to word order. Look how these words are ordered. 明天, what is 明天? And then 4点, what is 4点? And then 以后is after. So look at the position of the word after. All right, so you should have a general understanding of this sentence now. 明天4点以后才有空. That's what Chang Lao Shi says after Leo asks 你什么时候有空?明天4点以后才有空. So pause and write down what you think. Okay, so the meaning encapsulated in here, especially with this 才, is I will not have time until. I will not have time until. Remember, 才expresses that meaning. They didn't go home until 12 o'clock. Right? I won't have time until tomorrow after 4. Okay? So I will not have time until after tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And this is a bad English sentence, but I will not have time until after 4 o'clock tomorrow. There we go. That looks better. I will not have time until after 4 o'clock tomorrow. 明天4点以后才有空. So tomorrow, 4 o'clock, after, 才, that's hard to translate in this, 才, have free time. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock after, have free time. Okay, and then 才, stuck right in here, has the meaning of not until then will I have some time. 明天4点以后才有空. So Leo comes back. 要是您方便4点半我到您的办公室去行吗？要是您方便4点半我到您的办公室去行吗？ Okay, so this 要是 is something new for you. 要是 means if. It's a word. 要是 it means if. 要是您方便 so if, and it sets up a conditional, kind of like a conditional statement. 要是您方便 so if 常老师 is 方便 so what is 方便? 方便 means convenient. 方便 means convenient. And just a little side note, noodles, I don't think you've learned the word for noodles yet, but it's easy. It's 面. Mian is the word for noodles. So you know chow mein. Chow mein is you go to a Chinese restaurant, you get chow mein, it means fried noodles. Mein is the Cantonese version of this word for noodles. In Chinese, in Mandarin Chinese, it's mian. So just an interesting little side note is that instant noodles, Chinese love to eat instant noodles, and the word for instant noodles is 方便面. Convenient noodles is what they call it. 方便面. 方便 doesn't mean instant, it means convenient. It's just they call their instant noodles 方便面. Okay, so 要是您方便 so if you are convenient 要是您方便4点半我到您的办公室去行吗? Okay, so let's find out what's happening. You can pause and think maybe you can decipher this now. If not, let's go to the next slide. So 到 means to arrive, to get somewhere. So 要是您方便4点半我到您的办公室去行吗? Okay, so I will arrive, and in English we need a preposition at. In Chinese you don't. 4:30 I will arrive at your what? Let's see what. 办公室 is office. 办公室 is office. So 要是您方便4点半我到您的办公室去. Now, there's a little pattern here. This doesn't make a lot of sense when you try and translate it in English, but they like to use this 到 and 去. And I think we might have seen this in an earlier lesson. 到 去 So this is like, I will arrive at your office. And so for this arrive, they take 到 in 去 and put the place you're arriving to in between the 到 and the 去. So 4点半我到您的办公室去. That's one like lexical chunk. 我到您的办公室去. I will arrive at your office. 行吗? 行, see this 行? 行吗? Let's take a look at 行. 行 means okay or all right. So you should have enough to work with here to decipher this sentence. 要是您方便4点半我到您的办公室去行吗? Okay. Pause and think about what that might mean. Okay, did you get close to this? If it's convenient for you, I will arrive at your office at 4:30 in the afternoon. Is that okay? So let's look at this piece by piece. 要是您方便, okay, if it's convenient for you. 4点半我到您的办公室去. I will arrive at your office at 4. 行吗? Is that okay? 常老师 says 4点半没问题我在办公室等你. So everything here should be fine except this 等, which means wait. 等 means wait. So you should be able to figure this out. 4点半没问题没问题我在办公室等你. All right, pause and think about what this means. Write it down. 4:30 is no problem. 4:30 is no problem. I'll wait for you at the office. 4点半没问题, no problem. So there's a nice little phrase that you can use quite a bit. 没问题, no problem. 没问题. Be careful though, you can't use 没问题 when someone says thank you. In English, I could say thank you and you could say no problem. In Chinese, they don't say no problem after someone thanks you. They say something else that we'll see later on in the next slide or two. 4点半没问题我在办公室等你. All right, not much here. 谢谢您谢谢您. Okay, you know this means thank you. 谢谢您. So, Leo says 谢谢您 to 常老师. So pay attention. Here is Leo saying thank you. So pay attention to how 常老师 responds to this. And that's how you should also respond when someone says thank you to you. 常老师 says 别客气别客气别客气. 别 means don't. Now, you're going to want to take a look at the grammar note number 3 on page 155. 别 is very useful. And it doesn't say it in this way in this grammar note, but basically it's a way to make a command, to command somebody not to do something. You use 别 when you want to tell somebody not to do something. Okay? 别, don't. Okay? It doesn't mean like I don't like. You can't say 我别喜欢. I don't like. No. That is 我不喜欢. Okay? Here, don't 别 is only means don't when you're telling somebody, commanding somebody not to do something. You use 别. Okay? 别客气. So 别客气. What's 客气? 别客气. 客气 is polite. Don't be so polite. 别客气. Okay? So when someone says thank you, 谢谢你, 谢谢你, you can respond and say 别客气. 谢谢你, 别客气. 别客气. Don't be so polite. And that concludes this Understand It lesson for Unit 1. 再见.